I've never been the kind of guy to jump to conclusions, but honestly I always felt like something was a little off with Lisa. We've been married for 7 years now, and for the most part I thought we had a pretty decent life. I work as an architect, she's a freelance graphic designer, and we live in this quiet suburb with a big backyard. Nothing too fancy, but enough to keep us comfortable. But over the last year, I noticed a few things that didn't sit right. First, she started coming home later than usual. Not just late after work, but sometimes she'd say she was meeting a client or working late at the studio. But her phone would be hidden, and she'd be strangely defensive if I asked about it. Then there were the little things. Her phone kept disappearing. She'd delete messages, and I'd catch her giving me these cold, dismissive looks like she was hiding something. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I just kept quiet and watched. The biggest sign, though, was her behavior during our weekly date nights. She'd start dressing up more provocatively, and the way she looked at me sometimes felt different, like she was trying to tease me or maybe hide something behind her smile. I brushed it off as her wanting to feel sexy, but a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding a secret. I'd catch her sneaking her phone into the bathroom or locking herself in the bedroom for long periods. Little things, but enough to make me suspicious. Then 2 weeks ago, I decided to go through her phone when she was at her studio. I found texts, nothing explicit at first, just little flirtatious messages to some guy named Ryan. He was a volcanologist she'd met during one of her trips to the dormant crater on our property. That's when everything started to click in my head. She'd been going there alone for months, claiming she was doing research, but the messages told a different story. They were talking about meeting up, about getting lost in the volcano and seeing the real fire. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I didn't confront her immediately. I wanted to see how deep this went, how much she was hiding. So I kept silent, watching her reactions, trying to catch her in a lie. That's when I noticed her phone was always glued to her hand. She'd get these weird, nervous glances when I asked about her research, and her stories about her trips became more elaborate and, let's be honest, ridiculous. She'd say she was with a team of scientists, that they were all serious professionals. But her stories about the volcano and her research started sounding more like excuses. The worst part was how she lied so effortlessly, like she was trying to gaslight me into doubting my own instincts. I'd ask her directly if she was cheating, and she'd roll her eyes, call me paranoid, tell me I was imagining things. But I knew better. I felt it in my gut that she was lying. She was having sex with this guy, Ryan, during her research expeditions. And maybe even more than just sex, I suspected she was falling for him, which made the betrayal even worse. It wasn't just about cheating. It was how she lied so convincingly, how she played me for a fool. I kept quiet because I wanted to see if I was overreacting. Plus, I wasn't ready to face the truth directly, not yet. But inside, I was boiling. Every day I felt like I was living in some kind of nightmare. I couldn't even look at her the same way anymore. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, was suddenly a stranger hiding her double life. The trust I had in her was shattered, and I didn't know how to fix it. I kept asking myself, why? How could she do this? And what am I supposed to do now? The moment I found out for sure was when I decided to follow her during one of her research trips. I didn't tell her I was onto her. I just wanted to see where she was going, who she was meeting. I told her I was going to get some groceries, but instead, I took my car and followed her out of town. She drove to the edge of our property, where the old crater is, this big, dormant volcano that we've always thought was fascinating. It's been part of the property for generations, and she had always acted like she was doing some kind of geological survey there. But as I followed her, I saw her park her car near the trailhead and get out with a backpack. That's when I saw him, Ryan. He was waiting for her, a tall guy with messy hair and a smirk on his face. They kissed briefly, then disappeared into the woods together. I couldn't believe it. I sat in my car, heart pounding, trying not to make a noise. I watched as they disappeared around a bend, and I felt like I'd been punched again. All those nights she'd said she was working late or out with colleagues, and here she was, sneaking off to meet her lover at a volcano. It was like a punch in the gut every second I watched. I didn't want to confront her right there. I wanted to think about what I'd seen, how I was going to handle this. But the anger boiled over pretty quickly. I drove back home and waited for her to come back. Her usual time was late, around 8 or 9 p.m. When she finally arrived, I was sitting on the porch, face cold and expressionless. I didn't say much at first. I just looked at her, waiting. She tried to act innocent, that bitchy smirk she always puts on when she thinks she's getting away with something. "Hey babe, everything okay?" she asked, trying to sound sweet. I stared her down. "So who is Ryan?" I asked, my voice trembling but steady. Her face paled for a moment, but then she rolled her eyes and scoffed. "What are you talking about? You're overthinking again. That's just some guy from the geology trip. We're just friends, okay?" I felt my blood boil. That just friends bullshit. I knew better. I told her I followed her today, that I saw them kiss, that I knew she was lying. Her face twisted into this defensive, bitchy expression. "Oh, come on, you're crazy. You don't have any proof. You're just jealous because I'm out there doing real work and you're sitting here thinking about stupid stuff." She crossed her arms like she was dismissing me. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her I was done accepting her bullshit, that I knew she'd been cheating for months, probably even using her research as an excuse to meet him. Her eyes flashed with anger. She was practically spitting. "You don't know what you're talking about. I've been faithful. You're just paranoid. You're insecure. You're always accusing me of stupid things." But I wasn't going to buy her lies anymore. That night everything changed. I realized just how deep her deception went, how little she cared about me or our marriage. Every word she spat at me, every lie, only fueled my anger. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. I had given her years of my life, and she was out there screwing around with some guy who studied volcanoes and probably thought he was some kind of wild explorer. Meanwhile, I was left in the dark, feeling like a fool. After the confrontation, I stayed up that night trying to process everything. I kept replaying her words in my head, her dismissals, her insults, her accusations. I wondered how I'd missed so much, how I'd been so blind. But the worst realization was that she didn't care about me, not really. She was willing to lie, cheat, and betray me just to chase some fleeting excitement. And honestly, I felt like I was just a placeholder in her life, a safe house for her to come back to when she was done playing her game. The pain was overwhelming, but I knew I couldn't let her keep doing this. I had to decide what to do next, and I knew it wouldn't be easy. After that night, everything felt like it was falling apart inside me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and I kept replaying that moment over and over. Her face, her words, Ryan's stupid smirk as they disappeared into the woods. I felt sick, like I'd been punched in the stomach, but at the same time I was furious. The kind of rage that burns so deep you can't see straight anymore. I realized then that I had to do something, and I couldn't just sit around waiting for her to decide what she wanted. The next day, I started planning. I didn't want to do anything reckless, no yelling, no throwing things, but I knew I had to make her understand I wasn't going to be played for a fool. So I looked through her stuff, trying to find proof, anything that would make her realize I knew everything. Her phone had more messages with Ryan, more flirty, more intimate. There were even some photos of her and Ryan at the crater, looking like they were having the time of their lives, like they didn't have a care in the world. I printed some of the messages, saved the pictures, and kept them somewhere safe. I wanted to confront her with everything, but I also wanted to catch her off guard. I decided I'd wait until she got home that evening, then lay it all out. I was feeling a mix of anger and betrayal, but I knew I had to be calm. No yelling, no yelling, I kept telling myself. Just facts. When she finally walked in that evening, I was already sitting in the living room with the evidence spread out on the coffee table. Her eyes immediately widened when she saw the printouts, her face twisting into that bitchy sneer she always used when she was caught. "What's this?" she snapped, trying to act innocent. But the moment she saw the proof, her facade cracked. She looked visibly shaken, but she quickly masked it with that same condescending attitude. I stared her down, voice calm but icy. "I saw you. I followed you yesterday. I saw you kiss Ryan. I know about the trips to the crater, the texts, everything. Don't lie to me anymore, Lisa. I want to hear the truth from you now. Are you cheating on me with Ryan?" I paused, letting her squirm. She rolled her eyes, scoffing again, trying to dismiss it. "Oh, please, you're making a big deal out of nothing. That guy's just a friend. We were just working on some research. You're reading into it too much." I shook my head. "No, that's bullshit. You've been lying to me for months. You're cheating, and I want to know why." Her eyes flashed with anger now. "Why?" "Because you're a boring, controlling bastard who can't handle me having a life outside of this marriage. I don't owe you explanations. I do what I want. Ryan's just someone I talk to, that's all." That's when I snapped. I told her I didn't believe her lies anymore, that she was just covering her ass because she knew she'd been caught. I told her I was done being played, that I deserved better than a wife who lied to my face and cheated behind my back. She looked furious now, her voice rising. "You're overreacting. You're insecure. You're crazy for even thinking I'd do this too." I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief that I finally knew the truth, but despair because I'd lost my wife, my partner, someone I had trusted for years. The pain hit hard, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I had to decide what to do next, whether I was going to fight for this marriage or walk away. The betrayal cut so deep I wasn't sure if I could ever forgive her. And honestly, I didn't want to. I felt like I was already starting to accept that this was the end. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept lying there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'd been gutted. Every thought was a whirlwind: anger, sadness, betrayal. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I could have been so blind. For years, I built a life with her, trusted her completely. And now I was sitting here, realizing she'd been sneaking around behind my back with some guy who studied volcanoes and probably thought he was some kind of adventurer. I decided I needed to have a serious talk with her again, but this time I wanted to be clear about what I was feeling and what I was going to do. I didn't want her to spin some more lies or try to gaslight me. I called her out first thing in the morning, told her I wanted to talk, and she looked annoyed, like she already knew what was coming. I think she thought I was going to beg her to stay or try to patch things up. But I wasn't in that place anymore. I was hurt, furious, and tired of her bullshit. I told her that I knew she was cheating, that I wasn't going to pretend everything was fine anymore. I asked her directly, was she going to keep lying? Was she planning to keep sneaking off to meet Ryan? Her response was classic Lisa, bitchy, defiant, and full of lies. "Oh, stop it. I don't know what kind of crazy fixation you have with that guy. We're just friends. I've been busy with my work and you're just making something out of nothing. You're insecure and honestly, it's pathetic." She crossed her arms and looked at me like I was the one in the wrong. But I didn't flinch. I kept my voice steady and firm, telling her I didn't believe her lies anymore, that she was a cheat, a liar, and a manipulator. Her reaction was to blow up. She started yelling, calling me all sorts of names: controlling, jealous, paranoid. She told me I was ruining her life, that I didn't understand her, that she deserved to be free to do what she wanted. Her words stung, but I knew I had to stand my ground. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but I wasn't going to stay married to a woman who cheated and lied. I told her I was done, that I was going to leave her. That's when she got even bitchier, telling me I was overreacting, that I was a loser who couldn't handle her independence, that I was just jealous because she was better looking and more successful than me. Her words cut deep, but I didn't care anymore. I wanted her gone from my life. I made up my mind that I wasn't going to let her manipulate me any longer. I told her I was packing my things and leaving that day. The rest of the day was a blur. I packed a bag, took some of my important stuff, and told her I was leaving. She tried to guilt me, said I was overreacting, that I was making her life hell, but I was beyond caring. I just wanted out of that toxic mess she'd created. I left her standing there, furious and yelling, and I drove to a friend's place. I needed to get away, clear my head. When I finally sat alone that night, I felt a strange mixture of relief and heartbreak. Relief because I was finally free from her lies and manipulations. Heartbreak because I'd lost someone I thought I knew, someone I loved. I realized I had been a fool to ignore all the signs, to think that I could fix her or that she'd change. But I also knew I deserved better. I deserve honesty, loyalty, someone who actually cares about me. That's what I keep telling myself now, what I'll need to remember to move on. The days that followed were the hardest I've ever experienced. Living alone in that house, everything felt hollow. The silence was deafening, and every corner seemed to echo with memories of what once was. I kept replaying those conversations, trying to find some way to make sense of the betrayal. I won't lie, there was a huge wave of sadness mixed with the anger. It was like losing a part of myself, and honestly, I felt pretty damn broken for a while. But at the same time, I knew I couldn't stay stuck in that place forever. I had to start rebuilding, even if it hurt like hell. I knew that revenge wouldn't fix anything, but I also couldn't help feeling a small, twisted sense of satisfaction knowing she was probably panicking now, wondering if I had more evidence, if I was going to do something crazy. I didn't want to blow up my life, but I wanted her to know I wasn't just some idiot who got played. So I started doing some research. I wanted her to see I wasn't blind or naive. I looked into ways to make her regret what she did. Nothing illegal, just enough to make her feel uncomfortable, maybe even a little guilty. I also started talking to some friends who had been through similar betrayals, trying to figure out what my next move should be. Honestly, I was just winging it, but I knew I had to do something to regain control of my life. One thing I did was contact her mother. I told her what I found out, and surprisingly, her mom was sympathetic. She told me Lisa had always been a bitchy, manipulative girl, and maybe this was just who she was. That helped me see I wasn't crazy for feeling hurt. I also started putting the pieces together, her stories about her trips, the way she lied, the way she dismissed me as paranoid. All made sense now. She'd been planning this for a while, probably using her research as an excuse to hide her cheating. Meanwhile, Lisa kept trying to contact me, sending these passive-aggressive texts and trying to guilt me into taking her back. She'd say things like, "I didn't mean to hurt you," or "We can work this out if you just give me a chance." But I knew better now. I saw through her bullshit. I realized she was just trying to manipulate me again, make me feel guilty for catching her. That only made me more determined to stay away, to focus on healing. I started going to therapy. Talking to a professional really helped me process everything. I learned that I wasn't responsible for her choices, that I deserved respect and honesty, and that I had to stop blaming myself for her actions. It also helped me understand that I needed time to heal, and that I needed to focus on myself, my work, my health, my future. I didn't want to be that guy who let someone treat him like dirt, but I also didn't want to carry that pain forever. It's a slow process, but I'm moving forward. Honestly, I still feel the sting of betrayal. It's there in the back of my mind, nagging at me when I least expect it. But I also feel a sense of strength I didn't have before. I learned that some people aren't worth fighting for, and that's okay. I'll never forget what happened, but I won't let it define me. I'm starting to see that I'm stronger than I thought, and that I deserve someone who actually respects and loves me. That's the biggest lesson I take from all this. Trust is fragile, and once it's broken, you have to decide whether to fix it or walk away. And honestly, walking away has never felt so right. Looking back now, I realize this whole nightmare taught me more than I ever expected about myself. Trust is everything in a relationship, and once it's shattered, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. Lisa's betrayal cut so deep that I thought I'd never recover, but I guess what's been most eye-opening is how much strength you find in yourself when everything seems lost. I had to face the pain, the anger, and the disappointment head-on, and through that, I learned that I'm capable of surviving even the worst heartbreak. I don't hate her, not really. I'm angry, sure. I'm hurt, definitely. But I also feel a strange sense of liberation, like I finally exhaled after holding my breath for too long. I've come to accept that some people are just not meant to be in your life, no matter how much time you invest or how much love you give. Sometimes it's better to walk away and focus on rebuilding yourself. Now I spend more time on myself. I've gotten back into my hobbies, started going out more often, and I'm even considering a change of scenery. Maybe a new place, new job, new life. I've realized that my happiness doesn't depend on her or on trying to fix what's broken, but on what I do for myself moving forward. The scars of her betrayal will always be there, but they've also made me more cautious, more aware of what I want in life and in a partner. I'd be lying if I said the pain is gone, but it's manageable now. What I want others to know is that betrayal doesn't have to define your story. It hurts so bad, but it also opens your eyes to what really matters. And sometimes, losing someone you love so deeply is the only way to find out what you truly deserve. So, to anyone out there going through something similar, trust your instincts. Don't ignore the signs just because you don't want to believe the worst. Because when the truth finally hits you, it hits hard. But remember, you're stronger than you think. Trust yourself, take care of yourself, and never settle for someone who doesn't value you. Because the right person will never make you feel like you're just an option or a fool. They'll love you honestly, and you'll never have to question their loyalty. That's what I've learned from this mess, and honestly, it's the best lesson I could have ever gotten, even if I had to go through hell to learn it.